Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Today is going to be a little bit of a different journey. I received this package today. And yes, it's from Russia, Moscow. Came here relatively quickly. And inside of here was a pen, obviously. It was some, crushed up paper around it. It's in this kind of retail packaging. Opens up very easily. So I'm assuming that's the name of the pen. I'll see how Google Translate might interpret some of the writing. The pen slides out. And this is new old stock. A pen from the 60s, supposedly. Pull-off cap. Interesting looking nib. Yeah, nice section, fits well in the hand. No weight whatsoever. This is a very, very light pen. It doesn't post. Interesting. There we go. Just had to get it in the right spot. I expected it to post well, and it does. Very well. Clean this out. Ink it up and see how this nib writes. An interesting feed on the back. Certainly not one of those standard injection molded feeds where you find on almost every other pen. A few days have passed since I received the Russian pen, and today I'm finishing up the video. And it's election day. So I went to the polls this morning and I voted. By the time you watch this video, it will probably be well past the election day, the midterms in the United States, but hopefully you also exercised your right to vote and partake in the democracy that we are fortunate enough to be in. Now back to the pen. As I mentioned, it's been a few days since I received the pen. Since then, I've flushed it. And in the process of doing that, I found some very interesting characteristics of this pen. As I mentioned earlier, this is just injection molded plastic, nothing special about that parts of the pen. But this is an interesting converter. It almost has like 3 rings on that piston. Slides up and down very easily. Looks like it'll hold, a little bit less than a milliliter of ink. This just unscrews here, and you can get to the I put silicone grease on that mechanism for the piston. The other thing that's interesting is there's threads here, which are the threads that the cap fits into. So the threads on the cap are located down there towards the middle. There's no threads here where you normally find them. I don't know how this converter comes out. I don't see any threads in there. It could be like a pressure fit type of thing, but I'm not willing to take it apart because it is a new pen. So I thought you'd find it interesting. So overall, the pen was inexpensive, and I needed to add a Russian pen to my collection, and we can't have WaskiSquirrel being the only one doing pens from Eastern Europe or the Iron Curtain countries. And what other ink to put in it but Dr. Zhivago. This is my really only Russian ink. And I've put this in a pen recently, but now we're going to put it into this pen and see if this nib performs as described in the eBay auction. The piston is very efficient in filling. The first draw up only left a very small opening. And I did my 3 up and down. As I did mention, I cleaned it, but I also like to flush with ink to make certain it's well saturated. There's an interesting logo on the box, which we also find on the clip. The other thing I find interesting is CCCP with a little symbol underneath of it. I think the former Soviet Union, that was their designation. If we look closely at the clip, we can see that AP there. The clip also seems to be a little bit of a different color than the cap. Maybe it was gold tone at one time and it's kind of faded. It's not a good word to use for plated materials, but it's the best description I can give you. There is some pitting there, so it's not a high-end pen. And there's also some interesting characters at the top of the cap. Not certain what the meaning of those are, but it's stamped in there. And again, it's not a real crisp stamping indicative of the quality of the pen, but let's really take a look at how it writes before we make any judgment calls. So to get an idea of relative size, we have the Ruchka, close as I'm going to get, 78G, and it is in that size range, about the size of a 78G. Pilot Metropolitan, slightly bigger, and here's your Jinhao X750, which is, I would say, considered a medium-large pen, so I would say this is in the small to medium range. As I mentioned, this is a light pen. We'll give you the weights. Yeah, the cap is not heavy at all. A pen I would probably definitely post. The section feels okay. It's a little on the small side, but for some reason it just feels okay. You can feel that end where it has a little ring there. I'm not a fan of the grooves that are cut in the top there, but I guess, you know, some people might like them. Just put nib to paper. Definitely not soft. I'd say it's pretty stiff, so the description in the auction was a little misleading. I mean, you can put some pressure on it and squeeze out a little bit of more ink. I mean, I'd say on a smoothest scale, it's about a 5. I mean, you get some good feedback, but it's still smooth. So how would I rate this pen? Originally, based on the way it looked and the way it was made and the quality of the materials, I was looking at maybe a 6.5 to 7, but it writes well. So I'm going to give it a 7.9. There's nothing exceptional about the writing, but it's consistent. It's wet. So I like it from that perspective, but not a pen that I'm going to pine over or want more of in different colors or anything like that. Interesting to explore it. I think the filling mechanism is definitely unique and well made, especially for a pen that the rest of the components are not to the same quality as the filler. And maybe because it's been sitting in a box for who knows how many years, could be 50 some. You know, that plating is a little bit off, but then not untypical of this quality of pen over that period of time. So did I think this was a good buy? I think for the money I paid for it, which was about 20 bucks including postage, I'm happy with it. I mean, it's my first Russian pen. So, and it's election day in the United States, so what a more appropriate writing instrument could I use? So thank you for watching. May you have many great, exceptional, interesting writing experiences. Explore this wonderful world, this global world, this international world of writing instruments that we have the pleasure to partake in. So we reached the end of this video. Until the next one, bye for now. Very consistent writer.